Reddit users ask, what did the weird kid at your school do to earn that reputation? Made plastic weapons with various school supplies so he could shoot stuff at people. The weird part is he shot them at the other outcast kids. While he's probably a successful engineer at this point, I did get the pleasure to see one of the math nerds slap the shit out of him in retaliation once. Kicked his wooden clogs at kids that bullied him for wearing clogs. He had pretty good aim. He used to sit in puddles to get sent home. Then the school realized it and stopped sending him home. He carried on regardless. He would unwrap condoms, fill them with yogurt, and leave them around the school. The weird kid at my HS got into an argument with a pretty popular kid. Population guy wanted to fight. Weird kid told him that if he wins then he gets to keep popular guy's thumbs they didn't fight. He had a walking stick that he didn't need and claimed it had a sword in it. We all believed him for about a week until he started claiming only the worthy could pull it after we tried to get him to show us. Always wore a different shoe on each foot, smelled terrible, and never brought a lunch. This was a Catholic school that cost a decent amount of money. Turns out he was just really poor. Everybody looked out for him afterward. Another girl was 12 and pregnant, and her mom was 24. Her baby daddy then killed a 7-Eleven clerk with a shotgun and made national news cause he said he wanted to know how it felt to kill someone. He wore a suit to school. Skaters made fun of him. He blew up one of the kids' lockers. He baked a cake for the class. It was nobody's birthday or anything. The weird kid just baked a cake and brought it in. The teacher confiscated the cake and brought it to the teacher's lounge instead of throwing it away. Another teacher had a slice, and it had the kid's pubic hair baked into the cake. Never saw that kid again. I was friends with the kid in grade school, Joe. Joe was losing his baby teeth. He had a crush on this one girl, Carla. He ran up to her in the playground to show her how loose his front teeth were. She called him gross, so he punched himself in the mouth and knocked out 2 of his baby teeth. He then chased Carla with his teeth clamped in his tiny, bloody fist, screaming, "How do you like me now?" He was my hero. He was sent home. The next day he came back to school with the 2 teeth in a tiny box. He was later sent home for shooting the teeth through a straw at things during class. He would retrieve the teeth, rinse, repeat. What a menace. He is now a MD, happily married, but not to Carla. It was high school. He was a nerd but not a fun one. He wrote a movie and was carrying the script around the school to show to teachers. He wrote his own autobiography where he wrote in third person and called himself an artist. His mother was choosing who can come to his birthday. And it was high school, so parties meant beer, booze and second base. Nobody came to his birthday. He is successful, awarded historical book writer. He had just transferred to the school and to introduce himself he said, "What's going on everyone, I am, and I fucked my stepsister," thinking that would gain him popularity points. His stepsister swapped schools again not long after because it was apparently true. We had a kid who would march up and down the halls, yelling military marching cadences. He would have his iPod in, and apparently, all that was on there were marching cadences. He also never talked to anyone. Every day all day, before class, marching. Going from class to class, marching. After school to the bus, marching, all while yelling those cadences. Not singing them, yelling. We were all convinced he was going to shoot up the school. He was into anime when that was very much seen as for losers. He always wore a Sailor Moon shirt. During a middle school dance, the last song of the night was My Heart Will Go On, which I guess was his favorite song, and he started slow dancing with his arms around an imaginary partner. I hope he's had a good life. This kid was National Honor Society, never studied for anything, completed homework accurately within minutes of class starting. Just never had to work for grades. Super smart and gifted. He was high all the time. I don't just mean smoking. The kid did all kinds of substances, and it never messed with his natural ability to just learn things and hold on to the info and then put that into a project or test or something. Maybe not the typical thinking of the word, weird, but still weird, not common. Taxidermied his childhood cat that as far as we knew died of old age and natural causes, and then brought it to school to show the teacher he liked. High school. She had neurodivergence issues. A bunch of other girls had a bulletin board outside the classroom where they always hung out, and posted notes and crude drawings making fun of how other people, including her, dressed and acted. Like Facebook bullying but before social media was invented. The school turned a blind eye to this, until one day she took a lighter and set the board on fire. Then the school suddenly cared a lot and she was expelled. Dude ate a lunchbox of ground coffee every day for lunch, no drink. Just the powder, and this was at 9 years old. I still sometimes wonder if he survived childhood. Dale wore only black t-shirts and camo pants every day. Had bug eyes and was small even for a 5th grader. At our annual required school play he chose, in front of the entire school, to play the kid who gets hypothermia. He stumbled all over the stage stripping off his clothes because he was so hot, and the teachers couldn't catch him. He fell off the stage into the kindergartners with his pants around his ankles when he finally dramatically died. Legend. We had a kid that would casually snack on crayons for dessert after he had eaten his lunch. She sat in a bush and growled at people that walked by. We called her Bush Girl or the Bush Monster if she were growling. Ah, Arizona never change. Crawled around the room like a cat meowing. Wore cat shirts and or pants every day. I'd imagine the best outcome would be a furry but IDK. Theater kid who wore a bowler hat all day every day for a year. Dressed and styled his hair like an emo kid, but would get really mad if you called him an emo kid because he hated that music. It was me. I was the weird kid. We had a weird kid that would do anything that he was dared to. Although I never saw it, the story was he was dared to eat a frog's eye in biology class. Full of formaldehyde. We all believed it at the time, not so sure anymore. I had a kid at my high school that came to school every single day dressed as Link from Legend of Zelda, sword and everything. Everyone knew him, however for some reason he got along great with everyone. In the hallways I always saw people giving him high fives, saying hello, all sorts of stuff. Against all odds he seemed insanely popular with every person in the school. Called in 14 bomb threats in a row because he wanted to hang out with his girlfriend. I even got to meet the FBI. Ripping braces off in hallway before classes started. Then he headbutted the biggest bully without hesitation when the dude tried making fun of him. Ended up becoming really popular. We had a foreign exchange student that was pretty awkward and a kind girl bought him a blue Powerade when he forgot his wallet one day. A week later he returns the bottle to her full of cum. We didn't see him anymore. Injected his spit into his arm. It's odd but at the time he was just known for being a mad lad. As an adult looking back it's just sad that he was constantly doing things for attention and probably had a shitty home life. One girl started her period in class and told everyone her horse gave birth and she didn't have time to change clothes before coming to school. She was our resident horse girl, and she didn't have a horse. We had a kid who used to hiss at people if they got too close to him. He'd randomly meow during class too. I think he was just really into cats, but it definitely made him stand out. She used to have longish hair. One day, she decided to get a pixie cut, nothing too unusual so far. What made it strange, however, was that before cutting her hair, she had braided it into a thick, neat braid and brought it to school. That day, she tucked the braid under her beanie and went around to every teacher and acquaintance, asking them to pull her hair. Those who complied were met with a surprising twist. They'd end up holding the braid in their hand, while she burst out laughing, cracking up as loudly as possible. I always check these topics to see if I find someone talking about me. No such luck yet. Nothing. Mike D just lied and said he saw Richie spanking it in the boys' room and Richie became Spanx for all of 7th and 8th grade. Even after Mike D admitted he made it up. My elementary school offered Bosco sticks for lunch sometimes. If you don't know what those are, it's a cheap and highly processed bread stick filled with mozzarella cheese. This cheese was very stringy, you could probably get a few feet of stretch if you really tried. One day, the weird kid pulled out the mozzarella, swallowed it nearly whole. He hung onto the end, and pulled it back out. I couldn't finish my lunch, I was so grossed out. He would suck on his markers and get his all face blue. He used to aim his farts in anyone sit behind him in class. He stalked a friend of mine for over a year. He always made comments very disturbing during class, as that a girl in class had nice breasts. We were about 10 yo. A few years ago I found out he became a doctor, a psychiatrist. Kid was just a conceited little asshole, but also weird. I used to think people used to just pick on him for being nerdy, but all the shit he brought on himself. Like if someone gave the wrong answer to a question in class, he'd call them stupid out loud and shit like that. He was very disrespectful, and when someone didn't put up with his shit he would go running to the principal and claim he was being bullied, when in reality it was just people not taking his shit. This was in high school too, by the way. Put his hands down the front of his pants, rifle around in there, pull out his hands, and wave them in your face asking the girls, "Wanna smell?" Pretty sure he grew up to be a legit incel still in mom's basement. He pretended to be airbending at recess because he was obsessed with Atla when it first came out. It's me. I was that weird kid. Ranted to me in driver's ed about the potato famine and his general hatred of the British. Rural Marion County, Florida, circa 2002. 14-year-old kid put alligator clips on the end of 2 wires, attached them to his shirt, then jammed both wires into an electrical outlet during science class. I'll never forget time slowing down during that moment. I saw 2 sparks slowly travel up the wire over the course of about 5 seconds. I remember the panic on his face as the sparks were approaching. The panic on the teacher's face when he saw it. The sparks hit the kid and all the lights went out in the building momentarily. The lights flickered a few times and the kid dropped to the floor. The kid managed to rip the clips off of himself and out of the sockets. He then fucking stood up and looked at the teacher terrified, mainly because he thought he was gonna in trouble. The kid went to hospital and was absolutely fine. But yeah, fucking mad lad. I can't be the only one clicking on this just to see if I randomly show up in someone's comment, right? Well, he got the nickname, the Math Turbator, by one of the class clowns, so I think you can probably guess what he did. There was a kid in my middle school that during class ate an entire tube of chapstick one bite at a time. We were all so confused. He was the first person I ever met with ADHD. This was back in the 70s when ADHD wasn't understood very well, so he was just known as the hyper kid. I went to his house once to play and he told me he had to take medicine to help him calm down, but it didn't seem to help very much. Then his family moved away and he didn't come back to school the next year. He wore a Naruto headband around the clock. He did the weird run thing they did and used phrases from the show. Ah, Pepsi boy. Kid came to high school and wore a Pepsi t-shirt every single fucking day from 9th graduation. The weird thing was he wasn't poor. He just liked the fucking Pepsi shirt. The nickname he was given was Jesse Cumjar, because he, well, yeah, kept it under his bed apparently, and contributed to it with all the vim and vigor of the teenage boy he was. Made a VHS tape of himself shoving a plastic toy fish up his asshole, then gave the video to another kid whose mom gave it to the principal. The whole school found out and called him fish fucker. He transferred to a different school shortly after. He had his hair braided like Fieldy from Korn, started wearing a leather jacket that kinda looked like the Fonz jacket from Happy Days. Then started wearing a Fonz shirt under said leather jacket and just acting like the Fonz, thumbs up and outbursts and too cool for school attitude bit with no one playing along. Eventually he just started wearing a sock on his arm and calling it Mr. Socko or something during a time that WWE's Mankind was doing this regularly, but he hated wrestling and got irradiated if anyone made that comment or connection. Was one of the richest kids in school, but you would only know if you drove him home or caught his random arrogance towards the poor's dude. Randomly invited me to see Metallica when I was 13. He got 2 tickets for his birthday and picked me out of the rocker stoner kids. He would try and declare himself the leader of sometimes just really try hard attention whore type, but with that rich kid better than everyone smug aura and undeserved false superiority complex. I bet growing up humbled dude a lot. I tried to look him up a few years ago but no luck. All he did was have the first name Erwin, and then some kid in class decided his name sounded like earthworm. From that point forward, that's all we called him. He was perfectly normal prior to this, but then eventually, after a while, he began to act weirder and weirder until eventually he was taken away by police in junior high school after a fight with another kid. We never saw him again after that. I feel really bad for him every time I think about it. Yeah, He got bullied by everyone, even the teachers bullied him daily. No matter what he did, he got bullied. He got punched by his mom every day, neighbors blocks away could hear him scream and cry. He came every day with blue spots over all his body, sadly killed himself when he was about 10 years old. RIP. Had ringworm for a really long time. Lived with older grandparents who didn't really understand how to treat it. We were friendly before that, but the teachers had us all sit further from him and avoid touching him BC they didn't want it to spread like crazy, and that just turned him into an outcast and we started to grow apart. I think one of the teachers finally had to make a house visit and eventually the ringworm cleared up, but by then the damage was done and worse rumors spread. I still think about him often. Last I heard he wrote a children's book about uplifting kids who are different. I hope he's doing well. He inserted his member into a hole on a tree, and proceeded to do the deed with the tree. This happened during lunch, so a lot of folks had to be witnesses to that. We were in high school by then, but he already had previous instances of taking care of himself in front of others during middle school. Everyone had to take their shoes off to get their heights and weights measured in gym class, and someone accidentally put this guy's shoes on and the kid threw a violent temper tantrum about it, chasing the kid who took the shoes around the gym, crying, punching a hole through a window, slamming and kicking the bleachers, and finally, most memorably, screaming, "I will fuck you," to the kid in a full rage. The whole school made sure he never forgot that moment for the rest of our days at that school. Took pictures of any girls who wore Converse. Not full body pics, but only their feet. One day someone saw his picture album on his phone and it was just filled with random girls' shoe feet pics. I wore Converse one day and was in the library and he was next to me and caught him jerking off while looking at my feet. I refuse to wear them to this day. Thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to leave a comment and a like so I can keep bringing more Reddit content.